The Witch, written and directed by Robert Eggers, starring, a lot of unknown people. Where is the cast list? Why is it doing this to me? See, this is why I sign into IMDb, because it gives me the way that I want to see it rather than, try to figure out their app. This is what happens. So it's starring some people. Anya Taylor-Joy, Ralph Ineson, Kate Dickie. Where's the other ones? Harvey Scrimshaw. Some children. Anyway, this is quite a movie.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of a horror film in a sense. The description on IMDb: a family in 1630s New England is torn apart by the forces of witchcraft, black magic, and possession. But I also like to think, as much as early on you actually see certain aspects of what they're afraid of.
Yeah.
There's an amount of paranoia and indecisiveness in trusting. Yeah, in trusting what you see and what they say. Which I think all that's very interesting. I don't know, and I was very impressed with the acting from children.
Right.
That I'm always worried about that.
And it does heavily rely on it in this film.
Mm-hmm.
Like the parents are side characters more than anything else. They are pivotal, but they're not on screen the majority of the time. The children are.
No. Tom, what do you think?
Let's see. I really enjoyed it as the movie you're talking about. I last year, because it was Halloween, decided to get into horror movies again and watch a bunch of those. And one of the ones I heard about, and it's come up a few times of interviews while Eggers is talking to people, is Hexen, a documentary from 1922 about witches. Mm-hmm. And what's really interesting about it is it talks about witches and their relationship to Satanism, all that. But towards the end, they explain how it's actually just mental illness and that we've been treating them wrong. So in a way, I've kind of changed my opinion on witches as more than just these evil doers. So it's interesting to look at it from perspective of a woman oppressed who slowly loses her shackles to male domination and becomes her own creature, and be it with weird, violent results. But I thought it was very good at showing that, and I love the atmosphere. Cinematography was great. It's very eerie, and I enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, I think that's all very present in the film. Yeah. And I think it was also like a very well shot film.
Oh yeah.
There was like the family, they're forced to leave a kind of a protected town, and they live on the edge of a forest, and that forest is kind of like a presence. There's a line that the father says where he's like they're having trouble with crops, and he tells his son like, I will not let nature defeat us, or we are going to work with nature or something like that.
Well, this weird manifest destiny thing they got going on.
Yeah, but I kind of like that idea of here they're at the edge of civilization, and they they're kind of like struggling against the elements of nature and of maybe supernatural elements perhaps as well. So it's really like I kind of like that when a character kind of says something like that, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is what they really like. This is what this guy's thinking.
Yeah.
And here he's fighting it.
And we learn a lot about him even in that first scene when they're getting banished from the plantation, from the town.
Yeah.
Like you can just tell this guy's like he's a hard man.
These are
set in his ways to the point where he's banished. He and his family are banished from civilization because of his beliefs and the way he lives.
Because they're too rigorous in religious beliefs, which like I kind of wonder what exactly they did to get kicked out, because it must have been something really extreme. But you can tell that the entire family does more or less fully believe the whole, like his whole deal is that they're going to hell, like they're all sinners, they're all going to like it's kind of like a no redemption kind of belief, which the son has kind of this crisis moment with, where he's like, what happens if I die tomorrow? Where am I going to go?
Yeah.
It gets pretty crazy.
Yeah.
There's some deep conversations that they have.
Yeah. I wanted. I like that kind of subtitle that it's a New England
folklore.
Folklore, because even at the end of the film, a little thing comes up, and I think this is 100 times better than at the beginning saying based on a true story, because at the end, then it's like most of this dialogue was taken from journals, diaries,
almost exactly
accounts.
from it.
Yeah, and well, it's not It's not. I would never call this based on a true story.
Right.
It is in the sense more so than other based on a true story films, because the dialogue is, correct. The dialogue is exactly things that people were saying at that time.
And you could tell that this is what people believed.
Yeah.
Like, this may not have really happened, but this is what people believed happened.
Yeah. It's really crazy this film is like a true descent down each character has like these moments of, what I thought was interesting was how, whether or not like it's connected, it's their sins are ultimately each of their downfalls.
Right.
Each of the characters has like either a moment of sin or a moment of reflection on what they believe their sin is, and then that ultimately is their downfall as they go throughout the film.
And a lot of it has to do with not even like cardinal sins. They're straight up stuff like lying.
Yeah.
Just the fact that someone lies,
the father's
tears down everybody else.
Is a pride.
Yeah,
and I love his moment of like he kind of in a prayer confesses that, and then to see how that turns out for him is like that's actually really interesting.
Yeah,
but yeah, I kind of like that. I like that even though it's not like necessarily the strictest of horror films in a sense, it has a rule set that it follows.
Right. And it's this duality between the supernatural and like the mundane of their life. Like what's happening with them is connected to the supernatural element, but the way the family is torn apart is wholly because of their belief structure.
Yeah.
And their willingness to,
and like just family dynamics.
And this lack of trust and believing in the supernatural that completely undermines everything, and it just destroys itself from within because of a tragic event that happens early in the film.
Yeah, which is kind of in the trailer.
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
But I mean, and
that's the only thing I'd seen in the movie was that scene.
And I'm glad I'd forgotten most of that trailer by the time I got here. I just remembered that part.
Right, me too.
But I do think it's interesting that when it comes down to it, the main character is really Thomasine, the oldest girl, and it's kind of her, like a lot of the divides in the family come between how she interacts with the two younger children, where they won't listen to her, and so they want her to watch over them, and when she tries to discipline them, she gets in trouble with the parents.
Right.
Like it's all very things that we've seen now.
Yes.
But when you put it all the way back then, and then you combine it with like their religious beliefs and just the way that also like medicine worked back then,
and
there's like scenes of like bloodletting.
Yeah.
And it's just like, this is crazy.
And they're completely isolated.
Oh yeah. They talk about at certain points, like if they even wanted to go back to the town for anything, it's a day's ride.
Ride on a horse. Like without a horse, it's longer.
Yeah. So that's like, I thought it was all very like interesting and very true to what it was. And even like the pacing was kind of a little more slower.
Yeah.
Than what I like, more or less, but it fit for the fact that, in this time, like everything takes a while.
Yeah. And this was the first time in a long time that people have gotten up out of the theater. And it was at a weird point. It was like,
because they're disgusted?
It was like halfway through the film, and it was when they were having a discussion about religion, like the whole family. And at that point, 3 people just got up and walked out. And they were discussing religion. Like...
You think they were bored or disgusted? What do you think?
Both.
Huh.
Probably. It was just crazy. Like, I was like, oh, they're leaving. All right.
I do want to save quite a bit of stuff for the discussion.
Me too, yeah.
But I did want to talk a little bit about... this film was put out by A24.
Right.
Which I think, Jordan, if you're not very familiar with them, I think Thom would be.
Yeah, they put out live entrance and stuff along with Annapurna. I get those two mixed up.
Oh, yeah. Annapurna's a good... Whenever I see that logo before a film, I go, oh, yeah, this is going to be something.
Yeah.
Yeah. A24, I was reading an article the other day from David Ehrlich. I refer to Thom because I only found out about
Speaking
him
of, David Ehrlich's name was in the trailer for this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I only found out about him through the Fighting in the War Room podcast, which was previously the, what was it, Off Kino? What was it called before? And I only found out about that through Thom. So thank you, Thom. But yeah, those are good podcasts, and he's a good reviewer. But he wrote an article about A24 and kind of like how, in a weird way, like they're very good at presenting films and picking films.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on their website. They did Room, End of Tour, Amy, Slow West, Ex Machina, While We're Young, the film we were talking about the other day, A Most Violent Year. Like, you just go back, and there's all of these films that I've seen and really have enjoyed.
Yeah.
Like, I think the earliest one that I saw was actually Spring Breakers, and then the next one after that was Under the Skin. And that was like, those two films totally set up the road that the company has gone down.
And they don't, like, it seems like they're not doing typical films. So it's kind of like you make it's like this, choosing to watch a film based on what company is putting it out. It seems like such a weird, outdated thing. But here it's, this is kind of like a brand of quality. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff here. They have so many movies coming out this year. Remember, Mojave, The Witch, Krisha, Green Room, Adderall Diaries equals Swiss Army Man.
Oh, Green Room. Did you see that trailer before this film?
I didn't.
Thom, did you?
I want to
see Green Room?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't understand that trailer at all. I think I read a description online.
I forgot the trailer. I just thought, there's Anton Yelchin sitting in a room.
Yeah, it's Anton Yelchin. It seems like he's some kind of a metalhead punk band person, and it seems I'm like, oh, okay, it's going to be about music because he's like playing in a band, and he's like coming back to a house afterwards, and he's like, yeah, music, you got to throw yourself into it, you got to get really into it and really raw. And then he's in the house, and then like there's like a dead person, and all his friends are there, and he's like, oh shit, and he tries to run. They're like, no, we can't run. And then they close the door, and like people are coming to the door, and then Patrick Stewart is there, and he's like angry and has a beard. And he's like, oh, you can't go anywhere. And I was like, what? I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I think months ago I read a description of this film, and I think Patrick Stewart's a neo-Nazi.
Yeah,
I'm like, what?
He's like a club owner,
but I don't
he's squaring off against the band.
I guess.
Yeah.
Like it didn't make it, and I was like, oh, so then they fight. Like I'm just seeing like people fighting in a house. I'm like, what? I don't even know what's going on here, but I'm a little interested.
Yeah.
I just wish I understood what was going on. That's all. But yeah, the Witch. I mean, good performances,
right? And
very interesting.
This is definitely one of those films that it's like I saw kids in Deadpool, which shouldn't have been there.
No,
but this is even more in that direction of like children will not understand this film.
Yeah,
they will not get it. Like this is a wholly adult experience. This is dark. This is interesting. It's slower. Just be aware that if you're going to go see it, it's worth seeing. It's like visually super interesting. And the music put me off in the beginning, but I kind of understood it later because it made certain scenes like when music, the strings, come up in the way that this film does, that usually happens around stuff that is supposed to, scare you. It's around the monster. And early on in the film, the strings come up when looking at the wilderness.
Yeah.
And just immediately, like, it's so interesting because I saw something online a couple of years ago that totally changed the way I saw music in films. And it was the same scene, but with like 5 different types of music.
Oh, wow.
And it totally changed the scene. Like, it was like people playing in a yard. It was like a mom with her kid. And like with one type of music, it was this beautiful, upbeat, like, everything seemed really cool. Like it seemed like a nice scene. And it changed it to a darker music like it's in this film. And it seemed scary. Like all of those scenes, those kids playing, like it just made you feel like something bad was going to happen. And this film sets that bar so high with the music because it just shows the forest and the strings come up so loud that it's almost overwhelming.
Yeah.
At least it was in my theater. So loud. And man, it just... It tells you what you're in for. It makes you realize that the nature, like you brought up earlier, is this force that they're contending with.
Yeah. I think that's about it for our review segment.
Yeah.
If you stick around to the end, you'll hear the discussion where I'm sure you'll hear a lot more about Black Phillip.